There is an opportunity for Labour here. Governments do need to harness a sense of national optimism. Governments do need to try and channel hope. The big Oasis reunion next summer, if things are going well for the government, if the economy's doing well, if public services are improving, then yes, I think that helps sort of in the background.
There was some really big news this week that far overshadows Keir Starmer's speech. Noel and Liam Gallagher have managed the impossible. They're announcing that Oasis is coming back in summer 2025. You are the New Statesman's resident Britpop expert. Is this the return of Cool Britannia?
It's a remarkable moment. I think there are political lessons in diplomacy here. If we can get Noel and Liam back together, anything's possible. But what it shows is there's incredible nostalgia for this period. And I think in a way, the Oasis legend has actually increased since they broke up, because I think the release of the documentary Supersonic was quite a pivotal moment that really charts their early years.
Oasis's greatest strength was me and Liam. It's also what drove the band into the ground in the end.
And you got this whole new generation of music fans who didn't see them, obviously, before they broke up in 2009, and who'd never really experienced perhaps a band who were that sort of pugnacious, the sort of swagger and attitude of Liam. It's almost unlike anything on the music scene today. And I think seeing those the euphoric occasions that were their gigs. No one with smartphones, of course. So really, you're just seeing the band and the fans at one did create this legend. And then obviously you've got the intense nostalgia amongst the original fans. Liam and Noel would both play solo gigs and obviously have been quite successful as solo artists and continue playing Oasis songs. Liam's lent heavily into that recently. So the potential was always there, though, for them to reunite and perhaps be bigger than ever. And I think there's a clear financial incentive for them, but I think they also recognised when there's this degree of sort of affection among you for the British public, it's almost irresistible.
Could you explain, for listeners who don't remember the 90s, why Oasis have this association with New Labour and Tony Blair?
Yes, so Noel Gallagher started making sort of positive comments about Tony Blair while Labour were in opposition. I think in a speech at the Brit Awards once, it said, there are few people giving hope to the public in this country. It's me, Alan McGee, who was their record label manager, and Tony Blair. They're working class Mancunians from a Labour household. So that was a sort of direct political link there. Then, of course, after Tony Blair became Prime Minister, he had a reception at Number 10 for figures in the arts and cultural industries, and Noel Gallagher and Alan McGee, head of Creation Records, were invited. There was a very amusing exchange between Noel and Blair where he asked Tony Blair, "How did you stay up on election night?" And Tony Blair replies, "Probably not by the same means that you did." Blair was criticised by some in the Conservative press at the time. People saying, "Look, you're allowing someone who's boasted about his cocaine use into Number 10." There were some who felt it was symptomatic of Labour being bedazzled by celebrities rather than being more focused on ordinary people. But it captured a moment in time, which was, as you say, the Cool Britannia was the label applied to it. You had famous cover story on Vanity Fair of Liam and his then wife Patsy Kensit in a sort of bed with a Union Jack duvet. And it was this sense that Britain doesn't just have to trade on glories from the past, the 66 win at the World Cup, Winston Churchill and its former sort of imperial standing, that it can be a force in the world today through the power of music. And that is something that I think Britain can be legitimately proud of. It's produced so many extraordinary bands over the decades: the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Radiohead. Now, obviously, in recent years, we've seen a lot of bands reuniting from the 90s, Blur, Pulp, who I know you saw, Rachel, Suede, Spice Girls even got back together. But I think what distinguishes this is this has the potential to be by far the biggest reunion, and it's quite rare for bands of Oasis's size to get back together once they break up. Obviously, the Beatles never did for obvious reasons. And in terms of their popularity, this is in some ways the closest Britain will get to experience a moment like that.
They do have just a huge place in the British cultural landscape. So I'm not particularly an Oasis fan, but I know all the words to Wonderwall, as does literally everyone else. And I remember just over a year ago with the coronation, there was a poll about changing the national anthem. Is God Save the King really what we want our British national anthem to be? And they did a poll of what other songs people thought we should have instead. And a significant minority, but a significant one, chose Wonderwall as the national anthem. So clearly there is this sense that it channels something British and something that sort of goes beyond just a pop band.
Absolutely. I mean, Noel's gift was always to write songs which just sort of enter the national songbook. They get played at weddings, they get played at funerals, and people will sing them at football stadiums. I mean, one of the most moving moments was after the Manchester Arena bombings, when the crowd sort of just started spontaneously singing "Don't Look Back in Anger." And I know Noel found that moment very moving. And I think when your songs have that potency and force, as I say, the idea of getting to play them again to 100,000 people in a stadium is too good to resist.
So Keir Starmer got asked an Oasis question after the press conference. He was sort of asked, what did he make of it? And he managed to respond with, I would say, zero flair, zero pizzazz, none of Tony Blair's, getting of celebrity culture. He sort of turned it into sort of quite a dull question and dodged it.
You spent a lot of time today looking back in anger, but are you happy that Oasis has decided to reform on your watch?
What can I say in relation to that? It's very, very good. It's a great song. I'm not sure I'm the best place to champion it after the last 20 or 30 minutes. But look, let's see what happens with Oasis.
But do you think there's any political mileage for the new government that this return of nostalgia, this revival of the 90s is coming right at the start of a new Labour government? Or are we all just thinking a little bit too hard about this?
It's a good question. I think Keir Starmer's musical period of choice is sort of mid-80s kind of indie. So it's sort of, he's sort of not of actually that sort of Britpop generation, but music and politics will always intersect. But I think politicians are always aware they need to be quite careful with this. I think you can gesture towards it. I mean, John Ashworth, who's former shadow cabinet member, who's now head of Labour Together, quips, Oasis only play gigs under a Labour government, adapting Howard Wilson's line about England only winning the World Cup under a Labour government. But they're always aware, look, music is something separate and independent. And if you try to appropriate it, it can backfire on you. I remember David Cameron when he went on about how much he likes the Smiths, and Johnny Marr said, "I ban you from liking the Smiths." Keir Starmer will have been aware of the risks that if he is too sort of lavish in his praise for Oasis, Noel Gallagher or Liam Gallagher will give an interview and we say, well, we think he's doing a crap job as Prime Minister or something, and you don't want a moment like that. So I think wise politicians always sort of keep a slight distance from it. But there is an opportunity for Labour here. Look, millions of people are going to be applying for tickets. Depending on how many dates they do, millions of people could even be attending. And if governments do need to harness a sense of national optimism. I think there is this really goes back to the conversation around Keir Starmer's speech this week, which some criticised as too gloomy. And governments do need to try and channel hope. You see the same when England are having a good run in the World Cup or the Euros. So, I think the big Oasis reunion next summer, if things are going well for the government, if the economy's doing well, if public services are improving, then yes, I think that helps sort of in the background. But I think they'll be careful that it is just the background. Politics is not the same as writing sort of hit records and just playing to the fans. So I think they will want to keep a certain prudent distance from it as well.